Morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The time is 9:01. Today is Wednesday, September 24, 2025. This is the second day of a two-day meeting of the Physical Therapy Board of California. Today we are meeting in the hearing room at Loma Linda University's Centennial Complex DeMazo Amphitheater, 24760 Stewart Street, Loma Linda, California, 92354. We are also meeting virtually via a WebEx component provided by the California Department of Consumer Affairs. This is an official business meeting of the Physical Therapy Board. The board's role remains to maintain consumer protection and consult with local and state entities on laws and regulations pertaining to the physical therapy industry. We will take public comment on specific agenda items, and at the end of the meeting, there will be a comment section for items not on the agenda. Public comments must be specific to the agenda item that is being discussed. If you make a comment during a specific agenda item that is not related to that topic, you will be directed to hold your comments until we reach the appropriate agenda item. All comments that do not directly relate to an item on the agenda should be held until the agenda item for items not on the agenda. The board follows the Open Meeting Act, so while we accept and appreciate the public's comments, we cannot respond to those comments. We do have a moderator from the Department of Consumer Affairs online to help us today. Individuals listening to the meeting will have the opportunity to provide public comment and will be assisted by a moderator who will be facilitating the teleconferencing process. For those members of the public participating via teleconference, please wait until the moderator has introduced you before you make your comments. To request to make a comment during the public comment period, the moderator will direct you with instructions. This meeting is being recorded and the minutes of the meeting will be prepared. Can we please have a roll call?
Aaron Brandon,
Here.
Samuel Q, Dale Armstrong,
Here.
Tala Kaloff,
Here.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. All members are present with the exception of Tanya McMillian, and the board has a quorum.
May I please ask Dr. Armstrong to read the board's mission statement?
The mission of the Physical Therapy Board of California is to advance and protect the interests of the people of California by the effective administration of the Physical Therapy Practice Act.
Dr. Armstrong, before heading straight into the continuance of our agenda, I would like, as the president, to welcome everyone here today in person, board members, staff, stakeholders, and especially any members of the public, in person and online. So I would like to continue on our agenda, going back to an agenda item that we went past yesterday, which is agenda item 8. That is review and discussion and possible board action on the board's sunset review report. Mr. Kaiser.
So as I kind of briefly touched on in the executive officer report, there was a committee established for Sunset comprising of Dr. Armstrong and Dr. Brandon. The committee has met twice since our last meeting. We have collaborated with staff. We've created a Teams channel portal where we've started a Sunset draft report, and that Sunset draft report is accessible by all staff members. We're able to work in the document simultaneously, and we've been able to onboard both committee members as well. And so it's been very helpful in the review of that document to be able to collaborate, work together, see each other's comments in real time, and even have discussions in real time, regardless of whether we happen to be in the same room together or many miles away remotely. I will say that I'm a little bit relieved today knowing now that we have, kind of settled on 2 dates, both for October and for November. 90% certainty that those dates will work. Again, just having to check in with one more board member to make sure that that lines up. In general, I would say that I'm confident that we're a little bit ahead of schedule when it comes to the drafting of the report. The report can be a very laborsome, tedious collection of data, narrative, and substantiation and rationale as to prove to the legislature why the regulation of the profession of physical therapy is both necessary and should continue. So thank you both for your help with that. Thanks to all of you for being willing to participate in this and making times in what I know are your very busy schedules. It's not very often that we meet more than 4 times a year. It's usually either sunset, which can be anywhere from 4 to 6 times a year for meeting, or even strategic plan for that matter, where we have that additional meeting. Every once in a while, like this meeting, it's even a little bit more complex when we try to do something like an in-person training for expert consultants and that kind of thing. So again, thank you for being able to take the time. Thank you for being here to it. For the future, staff and I will continue to work with the committee in crafting draft language. About a week before our scheduled meeting on the 15th in October, we will push the draft out to the rest of the members to be able to review. Again, I would just emphasize the use of the word draft at that point. It's not a finished product. Obviously, we want the input of the entirety of the board to be included in that as well. And I hope that getting it to you a week in advance is enough time to review and be ready for what is really more of a workshop than anything else. So the 15th meeting will be very much a classroom setting. We will all sit in a horseshoe. We will put that document up on the big screen and work through it point by point, note by note, and discussion points. So if you are at all able in your review to come to that meeting with some of your edits already comprised and ready for conversation, we would certainly appreciate it. I've said that schedule-wise, and I'll just very optimistically say, I think that there is a small possibility that we might be able to complete that sunset draft at the October meeting. My prediction, if I was a betting man, is that we will actually be able to do it a month later at the November meeting. The parachute, or our pencils down moment, is that we do have to complete it at our December meeting so that we can submit it to not just the legislature, but it also give us some time to submit it to the Department of Consumer Affairs Publications Design and Editing team to create a cover, to beautify it, to make our graphs look a little better than we might have made them, make it a more uniform product and presentation to the legislature and to the public.
I just wanted you to can you share a little bit about some of the questions that were posed that might be different than last year, the last sunset, maybe some areas that we are looking pretty good in because of the information we have from workforce, and also because of our ability to collect data on ourselves
Absolutely.
and share information from the other boards.
The template questionnaire that we receive from the Business Professions Committee is fairly standard, but it does vary from one legislative session to another. This legislative session, I would say the key difference and the highlight is just that. There are some questions that pertain to workforce data. I think we're very well situated to answer to those questions because we've been collecting that workforce data for almost 5 years. And that workforce data will be something that we use throughout the Sunset Report. To substantiate other areas or other questions that were normally asked. The workforce data for this profession looks pretty good. I mean, the first annual data collection of that report had some very good baseline measurements when it came to there aren't any underserved areas or overserved areas. But in the most recent report that was collected in April of this year, we do start to see that there are a few underserved and overserved areas, and we'll accentuate those throughout the report. But it also gives us an idea into the demographics of the profession. And one that's of a key concern for regulators is what is the retirement potential for your profession? And looking at our data, we're in a pretty good situation with that as well. About 50% of our licensees don't identify as retiring in 11 or more years, which means your profession is continuing to grow. I think that's also corroborated by the data that you see in the application statistics reports that we'll talk about today. We receive more applications and we issue more licenses, then we see an attrition leaving the profession, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
That's also reflected in other statistics in the report. Budget, we have more revenue than we have expenditure. So we're living within our means. And one of the reasons that we can say that is because the profession is still growing. So we'll concentrate on that. That's the key difference that I've seen since the last legislative template that we did in 22. And I think that that's a fairly significant trend. The creation of HCI to collect that data for workforce is not just a California trend, it's a national trend. When we discuss our participation in FSBPT, we can also highlight that we are participating on FSBPT's task force to collect workforce data and even compare that workforce data across jurisdictional lines. And that'll show it, it'll have an influence in the report as well.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among the board members? Any questions? Okay. Is there any public comment in person on item number 8? Okay, I'd like to go online for any questions with the moderator.
All right, WebEx is open for public comment on agenda item 8. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Is there public comment? There's another public comment question here. Can I continue?
Public comment in the room, yes.
Yeah, come on down. Yeah, come on down.
Hello. Okay. Dr. James Sims, California Physical Therapy Association. Can you reiterate the dates of the meetings and are they open to public or to professional
Open to the
associations
public,
to
open
attend?
to
And location,
open
date,
to all.
look,
They'll be at the Evergreen Building in Sacramento, the headquarters for Physical Therapy Board, downstairs. And it's October 15th. And I believe we decided November 15th as well.
yeah. And business 8595, whatever,
9 to 5.
9 to 5. Is there any,
And sir, this is a public comment section. Please make comments to the board. This is not an opportunity to ask
Okay.
the board questions.
if I think it'd be, the comment would be, I think that if it could be announced to the public when this is and the date, stuff like that at some later time, so that
Fair enough. It would be
declarative
just
rather
like
than.
any other meeting.
Yeah, so that'd be the comment there. It was stated, but I didn't get it, so my comment is I wasn't listening careful enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just one correction. So the November date is the 19th.
November 19. All right, so we're going to move on to item number 9, and that is discussion and possible board action regarding Sunset Review Subcommittee's recommendations on issues to be identified in the Sunset Report. Did you want to, Dr. Armstrong, did you want to share a little bit about what we discussed, or would you like me to?
So I think we just want to open it up to.
Turn it on.
I believe that we would just like to open it up to the board for ideas.
I'd like to share a little bit. We did review some other boards, Sunset Review from not only California, but from all the other states, looking at emerging areas such as AI, documentation, workforce representation, new modalities and regulating them, as well as barriers to licensure process. At this time, there's really nothing that we felt that stuck out that we needed to adjust right away, but we're open to information and ideas that we feel could be well justified in our new issues. And we will continue to consider and think about how to make an impact in the positive application of any new industry innovations in physical therapy as it pertains to safety and implemental implemental practice in physical therapy in California. But yeah, we're open. Anyone on the board have any ideas that they've been processing and want to share? And then we'll meet again in the subcommittee one more time before our October 15 meeting.
I just have one snippet of like an additional piece of information and then one to revisit from yesterday's conversation. Staff and I will still continue to explore the idea of recommendations for new issues to be identified. We'll work with the committee. You might see those in the draft. We'll let you know if such time that happens. And so while right now staff only has one recommendation that you can look forward to seeing in the draft for October 15th, there's a potential that we might find more. We're always looking at, and I guess what I would emphasize here is what we're really looking at when we identify a new issue to be identified at sunset is something that we need assistance with at the legislative level. This would be a change in statute. What do we need assistance from the BMP committee for? A good example of that, if it's something that we already have the authority to change through promulgation of regulation, it's not necessarily something that we would ask of the committee. We might advise them that it's something that we plan on doing in the future, but we don't necessarily need their assistance in reformulating statute through the sunset process. The one recommendation that we made yesterday of trying to make the petition for reinstatement authority more congruent with the application for licensure authority, just as a point of clarity, and I think this kind of came from discussion both with the Attorney General and even from Board Counsel, is we think the benefit to the change of that authority, one would be consistency between the two authorities, but more importantly, if we came against a situation where a petitioner for reinstatement was indeed a Megan's Law sex offender registrant, to Council's point, because of 2660.5, the board would have no option but to deny that petition because of that authority. You could not have a licensee continue to practice while they're a registrant. Staff's recommendation, in a sense, is to be able to delegate that authority down to staff very much the same way it's delegated to us for the application for licensure authority, that we wouldn't even hear the petition, right? We wouldn't expend those resources, and we could avoid those resources and administrative burden with the projected inevitable outcome, right? So it's really much a way of freeing up the board's time and resources for the furtherance of our regulation in other areas and things that are of more priority. Understanding that the current system today would never allow somebody who is on the sex registrant for anything other than an indecent exposure misdemeanor to have the board apply discretion and grant them a license. Is that fair to say, Michael?
Yes, I do. I do think that's fair to say. And the Medical Practice Act has their provision is in some ways similar to the board's, but the difference is their law already provides for this. In other words, if someone is required to register as a sex offender pursuant to the Medical Practice Act, then they would not be permitted to file the petition. The board wouldn't hear it. It would probably return it to them with a letter to that effect.
And we're looking for that consistency as well.
So can you help me understand the new issue to be identified, is that about the cost for application fee assigned to petitioners? Or is it about the ability for the board to delegate staffing, not accept a petition coming from someone who's currently on the registration?
Currently the latter, right? So
Okay.
really what we're looking for is a draft of language and a change to the PT Practice Act that essentially brings that clarity
Got it.
that a petitioner for reinstatement who also happens to be a Megan's Law registrant is incapable of petition, right? Secondary to that, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier, is that staff and I are going to continue to look at other potential new recommendations. And so one of those things that we're looking at is, should a petitioner for reinstatement share the same burden of cost in application for licensure and their first contribution to the administration of the board through renewal, the very much the same way that an applicant does for the first time.
And those would both be statute changes.
They would both
correct?
be
So
statute
we're-
changes,
We're
but we would-
investigating the second one.
And we'd identify them as two separate new issues to be identified.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Is there any discussion on, oh, sorry.
No, just to close that loop briefly. So if we were to propose such a change in Sunset, the board already deals with this situation when petitioners file petitions untimely before the year or whatever the period is has expired. So it would be similar to that in terms of the board's resources.
The only thing that I would add to it too is between now and then, we are now aware of the consultant that's assigned to our bill. And so we'll have conversations with them as well. And so we might have a little bit more insight from them, trend data, things that they're seeing in other healthcare boards, things we might want to consider. And of course, we'll report that to the committee and then also to the full board at the 15th.
All right. Is there any other discussion from the board?
Just have a quick question. So regarding the new issues that we need to think about as a board or modify, so going back to the last sunset, which was it in 2022?
Two.
And I'm not sure if I missed this. Were there any particular issues that have been brought up at that time that we need to work on? Was it the workforce in particular or anything?
So we did have a list of new issues. And in some ways, there's kind of this rolling list of issues too. So as part of this report, there's a section to address pending issues from the last sunset, or what they would consider old issues. And what is the status of those issues? Did you receive any kind of relief from the legislature, or what have you done in the interim? We do have a few of those, and they'll be covered in the draft report as well. I think I have them right here, actually. When I say an old issue that has kind of rolled over from one sunset to another is the fact that we are at our statutory caps when it comes to fees. Right now, regardless of this board's fiscal situation, we don't have the authority to increase our fees. We are at what's called the statutory caps. If this board came across any kind of, unforeseeable circumstances, major legislative change, additional resource draw to the board, lawsuit, national issues, we would not be able to account for that. The only thing that we could do was reach out to an author to seek emergency legislation to assist us in that process. So in the 22 sunset and both the 2016 sunset, we identified the statutory cap as an issue to be addressed. I think we were very clear in saying we had there is no want or need to increase the fee per se, but what we were asking the legislature was to consider increasing the cap. I will tell you from the administrator's perspective, being at caps is an uncomfortable position. You never know what's right around the corner, right? And planning for a rainy day is very difficult to do if you are very limited in your ability to, on demand, or at least partially on demand, increase your income stream. And so right now, that's the situation we're in, and we've been in that situation since 2015. So 10 years is a long time to not have the ability to, at least the ability to promulgate through regulation to increase your fees. And when I say promulgate through regulation, I mean, if this board, having statutory cap room, ever wanted to increase its fees, we would engage in a very open to the public and open to the stakeholder process. We would have to substantiate why we were increasing the fee and by how much. And we would have to address every stakeholder comment as part of that process in the regulatory package. In our last sunset, I did see kind of a glint of hope that we might get our statutory caps increased. And you can go back and watch our sunset hearing and see how that conversation played out. It can be a confusing conversation. It's my own opinion and it's only speculation, but the legislature is very used to a board, coming to them to increase statutory cap or fee when they are in need of it, when something emergent has happened. We are trying to be very kind of proactive and get in front of the problem, right? We want that authority to be there in case it comes. And so we, again, had a number of conversations to be very clear that we were not anticipating a fee increase of any kind. This is just solely asking for an increase in the cap itself. By the end of that conversation, it sounded like, okay, we all understand each other, and that's actually a really proactive plan. Thank you for, being fiscally responsible. And I left that hearing thinking we might get an increase in these statutory caps, and we didn't. So there is a priority there, right? If it doesn't rise to priority, it might not be something that gets penned into legislation. So we hope this time around that particular issue is addressed, and it is a little bit more need. I mean, you can see, we'll discuss in the next agenda item, our administrative services report and our budget discussion and our projections moving forward, what our fund condition looks like. Again, very healthy, but projected to dissipate year after year. And so fee increase becomes something that we have to keep an eye on the horizon. So in the last report, things that we consider resolved, we identified clarifying revisions to the retired license status. Our retired license status is up and running. The regulations are promulgated. It's been working for a number of years. We're very happy with that. So we also consider that to be resolved. We had some technical corrections to address a cross-reference issue that occurred in previous legislation. I believe it was SB 198, where we just realized that there was some references that were keyed that weren't corrected when legislation happened. And so this was a very omnibus way to address those corrections. Issue number 4 was the English proficiency examination, or the TOEFL, and we believe that to be resolved. It's up and running. We've been using it for a number of years. Issue number 5 was very pandemic related, and that was the treatment plan of care for children covered under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. There was a conflict there where it was very difficult for physical therapists as part of a team to refer back to a physician or surgeon for a diagnosis to ensure that there was continuity of care for their patients. So there was a legislative change as a result of sunset there for us, where it wasn't necessarily a diagnosis, but it was a referral, and it was part of the actual education plan itself, and the physical therapist could act on that. And so we believe that to be resolved. And from what I understand, that works very well currently. And for the last 5 or 6 years, we haven't heard any kind of negative feedback for that either. So identified as new issues in the last sunset, issue number 2 from the 2022 report was, and again, very pandemic related. This board asked the legislature to consider requiring of this board to provide a WebEx component to each and every public board meeting that it held. Right now, we can provide WebEx when technology allows for it. But because of the pandemic and we were trying to find different vehicles for engagement for the public, we wanted to leave the in-person meeting intact, but we wanted to also add to it what we're doing here today with the WebEx. But we wanted the legislature to help us with that and create that as a requirement for us to do it. And in that requirement, it might help us and assist us in procuring the right technology to do it. So it was never meant to replace in-person meetings. It was in addition to. Here is a way for the public to engage us further. That was not done. In fact, we discussed it yesterday in the legislative session. We know that Bakley Keene is going to sunset on January 1st, and we know that there's a bill to extend that. It's not quite what we asked for in requiring the WebEx component. It's more about WebEx as an option, but here are some subset rules to that. The majority of the members have to be in a publicly accessible place. And then some of the other members can participate remotely. In our presentation in Sunset, we didn't present it as though this was an idea for members to not have to attend. That wasn't the purpose of the WebEx. The WebEx was to increase the engagement and the ability for the public to participate in the meeting in a virtual capacity. And then last Sunset, issue number 3 that we consider still not resolved is the EPR request that this board is currently working on. And because of the nature of the Sunset report, we have to address all pending previously identified issues in this report as well. So it won't be in the new issues identified. There's already a section there that we have to address it because it was part of a previous Sunset report. One last one from last time. We identified during the pandemic, one of the issues that came to our attention was through our direct access, through our AB 1000 bill, temporary direct access where you have 12 visits or 45 days. Anytime after that to continue care, the patient was required to have an in-person consultation and referral and an assessment of the practice and signed off by a physician or surgeon. And as you can imagine, during the pandemic, it was hard enough to see anybody in person, let alone a physician or surgeon. So that created a continuity of care issue for us as well. And so we had, through the director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the governor's office, a waiver of that. And in Sunset, what we asked for was to take that waiver and make it permanent. And they did through our 2022 Sunset. And right now it works very well. So even after direct access, there is a new vehicle where that continuity of care, that sign off of the plan of care by the physician or surgeon can be done by via telemeans.
So if I'm keeping score, the 2 rollovers are the statutory cap on fees and the EPR.
You're keeping score.
Everything else was resolved. And then our new issues identified since the last Sunset we're working on
Correct.
are going to be the consistency with Megan's Law and our inability to accept a probationer who is on for petition and possibly a change in the application for reinstatement.
Possibly. We're working it through.
Okay. All right. Okay, is there any more discussion from the board on number 9? Okay, any public comment in person on number 9? Okay, any online public comment?
WebEx is open for public comment on agenda item 9. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a moment to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. I am going to move forward onto agenda item number 19, Administrative Services Update.
So I will be taking that portion of the report. Again, we've split up duties to save costs on travel and lodging, and so I'll do the administrative services report. We'll go straight to the budget and numbers, right? This is the close of fiscal month or fiscal year 24-25. I'm happy to say, and I reported in my executive officer's report, that we were able to revert $155,000 back to the fund. A couple things that I'd also like to to point out aside from that. While we were able to under expend our budget, our total expenditures were just over $7 million. Our budget allocation was $7,179,000. Those are important numbers for us. Those are part of the governor's budget that's built statewide. It's built on trend data of expenditures that we've had in previous years. But for us and for you as members, I think one of the other key numbers to kind of keep in mind is while we expended $7,023,000, our revenues far exceed that. So our revenues for this fiscal year were $7,674,000. So while we were able to revert $155,000 back into the fund, there's an additional, over $500,000 that went into the fund as well. Now, next year's budget will be built on trend data from this fiscal year and the previous 2 fiscal years, and anticipate any increases in costs for things like salary for staff, retirement packages, benefit packages for staff, and a few others. You can usually expect about a 3 to 5% increase in budget year over year for overhead costs. But I would say the over $600,000 in revenue excess and the $150,000 that we reverted back to the fund more than account for any of that. So we are living within our means. Further down in the report, you'll see the actual fund condition that's prepared for us by DCA staff and the Department of Finance. And you'll see what they see as an anticipated budget for fiscal year +1 and fiscal year +2 moving forward. And at the very end of those rows, you'll see what we call our months in reserve. So this year for this fiscal year, we were at 9.2 months, which we're close to my goal. I always want, just for sake and ease of mind, a double-digit fund reserve. And we had it for a very short period of time, but now we've just dropped under it a little bit. And then you'll see in the projections that it's projected to go down to 8.6 and then 7 year thereafter. And then ultimately for fiscal year 26-27 down to 6.6. In all transparency, those projections are very conservative in the sense that we straight line the revenue. We try as best as we can to anticipate realistic expenditures. We know that our salaries are increasing. We know that our, the cost of benefits and retirement packages will increase, rent will increase, overhead costs will increase, and we use that in that projection. What we don't do, though, in projections for our revenues received is we don't project increases. We plan for the worst case scenario. So we take the revenues that we received and we straight line out. So 6.6 is a projection based on worst case scenarios. Maybe not worst case scenarios, but not the best of scenarios, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. The idea of collecting more revenue and being able to under expend your budget only helps that fund condition. So we're in a good place there. But the 6.6 again is a very conservative view. And like I said, I would like to see double digits. It would make me comfortable just being in charge of the purse strings.
A quick question on the the fund balance analysis. Do we go back and true up the prior year, for example, 24-25 on the revenue numbers and
that we do, but you may not see that until either the next or previous fund condition projection.
Yeah, because obviously we picked up a 600,000.
Right. There's a reconciliation
Yeah.
that occurs, but it is a little bit delayed.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion from the board on the Administrative Services Report A and B? No?
So just a couple reminders from the Administrative Services Unit. I'd be remiss if I didn't share these reminders with you as board members. So one of the other things that I would just remind is training and training deadlines, per diem, timeliness of submission of per diem from board members, and then timeliness of travel claims from board members also. And that's just a friendly reminder from administrative staff back at home so that they can facilitate those things, get you paid as quickly as possible, and still fall within compliance rules with the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, any in-person public comment on agenda item 19A and B? Okay, I'll go to online moderator for public comment.
WebEx is open on the Administrative Services update. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Actually, I do have one comment to make. I wanted to clarify on the item under operating expenses. I know we discussed at the last board meeting why there's such a deference on budgeted for equipment. I was just wondering, moving forward, what is our determination on our budget for the next year? Are we maintaining it at the allocated 8,000 or are we making an adjustment?
So the equipment line item is established during Galley. We usually submit a request or a plan based on boards' technical needs and equipment needs, end of life cycles for copiers, laptops, computers, those kind of things. The anomaly that you see here was a carryover from the previous fiscal year. And so what I mean by that is we had set aside budget and funds to purchase laptops in the previous fiscal year. But as a result of COVID supply chain issues, we were not able to receive those laptops until the transition into this next fiscal year. So if you look at the materials from this time last year, you'll actually see an extreme under expenditure in that category because while we had set the money aside, we never had the opportunity to spend it. The fiscal year transitions, we go from month 13 into fiscal month 1 of the next fiscal year. Actually, I think it was fiscal month 2 of the next fiscal year. And lo and behold, the laptops show up. And now we're not budgeted for that purchase. Obviously, 757% over expenditure for that line item. I guess the point that I would make is it wasn't for lack of planning. It just happened circumstance. But the responsibility for us at that point too is to make sure that we don't, while we are overexpending that line item, we need to underexpend other line items. And clearly we had, hence the $155,000 reversion. So again, it's just something that staff and I have to kind of navigate around. But it is a capture of what actually happened, right? And without the context of the previous fiscal year's expenditure reports, it lacks a little context.
Okay, thank you.
Now, for years moving forward, as we build the galley for the budget for next year, we don't anticipate very much equipment costs.
What is the life cycle of the laptops we have now?
Vincent might be able to help me with that a little bit. The life cycle is usually 4 to 5 years for replacement. That sound about right? Yeah. And then some of the more expensive expenditures can be copiers. Copiers are a little bit, but they also tend to have a little bit longer life cycle. So we run things longer than they might normally, and we have good technical support, so we take care of the equipment. Some precautionary measures for laptops when it comes to like heat dissipation or damaged cables or those kind of things. And I know staff are probably watching remotely laughing at me because there's some things where it's like, we have to make these things last. You know, you're going to use a magnetic cable so you don't rip the socket out of the side of your laptop. You're going to use steps so that the laptop breathes a little better. If it overheats, we got to buy a new laptop. It's not in the budget. We already over exceeded this year's budget. So.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go on to item agenda 20. We're going to licensing service update. Thank you so much,
That's
Sarah,
fine.
for stepping in for Valerie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Sarah Conley. I'm the Assistant Executive Officer, and I'm going to be reporting on behalf of Valerie this morning for licensing services. So I'll get started with referencing the report that's included in the materials. As you can see, and as discussed previously, the PTA applications have increased as expected with the addition of new programs. Otherwise, operations are stable. And I want to acknowledge that maintaining stability, especially when the applications unit is well under the processing time goal, is in and of itself an accomplishment. We don't have any significant issues at this time, and the licensing team is doing a great job. On another note, when I say stable, it also includes working on oversight reports, such as the annual report, the sunset report, strategic plan goals, both licensing specific and organizational effectiveness, the ever increasing outreach demands, and continually monitoring the program for opportunities to improve. So while stable, also active. Is it okay if I go into continuing competency, or did you want me to pause there?
Nope, you can continue.
Okay. So continuing competency is a little bit different. There's a little bit more going on there. In line with the board strategic plan goal 5, with objectives to clarify the continuing competency guidelines and evaluate the program for effectiveness, as well as implement a fee for approval agencies. The continuing competency in executive units, specifically IT, so Vincent, also DCA is helping support this effort, have been collaborating to establish a solid foundation for an innovative, long-term, scalable solution, right now focusing on approval agencies. So we have approval agencies for the providers and courses, as opposed to the licensing portion of the CC program, which is auditing their licensees' continuing comp requirement. This initial investment of effort is essential for a successful outcome of what we're trying to achieve. And while staff look to the future of an integrated data collection, record maintenance, and stakeholder accessible solution, they continue to support the existing structure. Staff have connected or attempted to connect with all agencies, collecting information that is and will be used to strengthen compliance efforts, leading into agency audits and having CC information readily available to licensees. So how does this strengthen compliance? For example, having a CC database of information will streamline processes and increase audit efficiency and achieve the licensee audit goal, which we've been struggling to do with our existing resources. Also, access to information. So if we provide more information about CC availability, the courses that are available will empower licensees to have that information to be compliant, but also reach out to the approval agencies if they have a concern with any of them. But immediately, the information that's recently collected has been made available on the website. It's been comprehensively updated with the current information, and there are a number of agencies that staff are recommending to be withdrawn, as you'll see in the materials. If an agency is withdrawn, they can still reapply in the future. This is just right now the recommendation because they've been unresponsive or they've actually requested to be withdrawn. One last note before we move on to that portion of the agenda item. All of this effort will feed into the CC Reg proposals, especially the agency fee. Because the fee authority we have is to sustain the CC program, the cleaner, more accurate picture we have of our operations, as well as implementing improvements beforehand, will keep the cost of the program down and the fee that we need to charge. So that's all I have for the update for licensing and CC. And I'll take any questions, and then we also have to consider the approval agencies before you to be withdrawn.
Is there any question or discussion from the board on the first part of the report? I do want to clarify, so for the benefit of the public, the purpose of California being very specific with their continuing education listings of providers. More recently, I've been involved in some multi-state programs, and they've been indicating that they don't understand why California has a restriction on some of the CE groups that we approve. And I just wanted it to be explicit for those listening and for all of us to understand the reason why we take it so seriously. Does anyone want to take that, Sarah?
One, I'd kind of question the premise of the question itself too. So I'll start with, for California to be able to provide any kind of compliance for continuing education, we have to know what content is out there for licensees to take. We have some, I would consider rather broad and flexible, even agile requirements in that continuing competency requirements have to be about physical therapy services or patient-client relationships. At that point, that recognized approval agency can accredit that course and quantify it and how many contact hours that it might obtain. But that process really has to occur for us to be able to consider whether or not that attendance of that course should go towards those hour requirements that you have in regulation. Without that process, then there is no quality measure. The premise part of the question, I would say, in comparison to other states, there are some other aspects of our continuing competency regulation that I would identify really as being quite beautiful, right? We have an alternate pathways approval process that allows for a number of different ways for licensees to gather continuing education credits towards their requirements, whether it's attending a board meeting here today, just to encourage engagement and getting the public and the licensing population to participate in the regulatory process, and attending the CPTA conference that occurred this weekend, again, an encouragement and incentive to participate and engage, writing a peer review or a journal article for the first time, teaching a class, serving as a clinical instructor. All of these things are things that you can actually apply for and use as proof of your continuing education requirement if you are ever subjected to audit. And so when I hear like the critique of maybe California is a little different, sometimes I think it's just education that needs to be provided to the person who's seeing it that way. And once we describe it to them, they realize, oh, there's some great ideas in there that turns out their state doesn't allow for. Maybe that's something that they might consider. Just a shameless plug. The other side of it is, and conversely, I actually see some states as being much more restrictive in what they approve for continuing education. And a good example of that would be, say, a state that defers to the National Association as the accreditor, or the local association chapter as the sole provider of continuing education. And I think that's a market restriction that may be unnecessary and might have even some of its own issues to be identified. So, but without oversight, without our ability to audit licensees for their compliance, and then an additional layer on top of that to make sure that we can audit the quality of the content of the courses that are being provided, and even to such extent is that we're also looking at the people who are providing the content. That's just part of the quality assurance measure that audits provides.
Thank you for elucidating that whole concept of the alternate pathway. I think it was probably due to the fact that some of these groups that provide continuing education for multi-states identified that it was almost like Californians would be penalized, but it was really an issue that they didn't meet the criteria.
Let me add one more layer to that then. In those situations where, you know, a licensee, maybe a multi-state licensee, California is aware of it, and California wrote and through its task force that promulgated those regulations accounted for those situations where we don't want you to have to attend more courses than is necessary to meet the requirements for each of your individual jurisdictions. To the extent that you can take one course and apply it to multiple states, we want to assist with that. Some of those states, if we're talking about East Coast or Midwest, and 5 or 6 states are listed as accreditators for that course, I would invite them we have a couple different vehicles that they can utilize. Those providers can reach out to a recognized approval agency in California and have their course accredited both in advance, in real time, and after the fact, right? So it's never lost, right? You may have attended a course, and as long as that course pertained to physical therapy services, patient-client relationships, you could have an after-the-fact attendance accreditation done by a recognized approval agency, and this board would recognize that. And you can find on our website which recognized approval agencies provide which services, including retroactive approval or approval of an individual course.
Sharing that, I do believe that a lot of employers only allow their employees to get paid for the time that they do their education days if it is demonstrated that they had CEUs associated with the education. So it's a couple layers, but it's good to know. And I think, thank you for explaining it.
But even in that scenario, there's options for them there as well. As an individual, if they took that course and it pertained to their state's jurisdiction and it was paid for by their employer, if they want it to fit in California, they can find that recognized approval agency on our website that will do that retroactive approval for them and make it fit. Now, they're going to charge a fee for that. Don't have any control over that market or how that assessment is done, but that option is available to them. So that goes back to that comment, all is not lost, right? As a business advantage, the provider of that course might want to also reach out to a recognized approval agency to get accredited in California. It's a selling point for them at that point. Now this course is now acceptable in California. So I can't think of any better flexibility than at that point for ways, recourse for licensees to make sure that it fits for the state of California.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question regarding this topic? Thank you, Mr. Kaiser, because this actually helps me as a physical therapist as well. And probably my question hopefully will also help other PTs that has this question on their mind. So you mentioned alternate pathways, like, if you're teaching a lecture, preparation for the lecture, or again, not the usual or traditional ways of taking a course. How is that? What's the workflow for that? So would approval agencies recognize that, and how do we get the credits?
So for the alternate pathway options that you have at your disposal, you can find those alternate pathways on the board's website and in the California Code of Regulations. But on the board's website, under licensees, under continuing competency, you'll find that section. You'll find each of the individual items. And I want to say that there's 17 different alternate pathways, and the hour cap that can be applied to that. All I ask, all staff ask, is that you keep proof of attendance and proof of completion of continuing competency hours. And we ask, but it's also a requirement in regulation that you, as licensees, keep records for 5 years of proof of attendance for CC. In the event that you may be audited, we want to make sure that you're prepared to provide that proof to us. We also went so far, and we understand life happens, circumstance happens. So the task force went so far as to require the recognized approval agencies to retain those records for 7 years. You happen to lose a certificate, you should be able to reach out to a provider and get a copy of that certificate. If, as a licensee, you reach out to a provider and you can't get a copy of a certificate, please contact the board, let us know. We will reach out to that provider and try to remedy that situation. Proof-wise is in that collection. If you wrote a peer article, keep a copy of that peer article. If this board ever reaches out to you and notifies you that you have, as a result of your renewal, been selected for audit, you just have to provide all of what you think is what you did to comply with your continuing competency regulations and submit it to one of the analysts at the board. They will identify any kind of deficiencies or issues. To Sarah's point, when we were talking about the automated database and the efficiencies that it might realize, if we can get a true actual database or a collection from the recognized approval agencies in as close to real time as possible of what courses are out there and being provided, when we do audits, we don't necessarily have to look at a certificate, verify its validity, maybe have to do some groundwork and reach out to the recognized approval agency and confirm and do those kind of things. It will already be in the system, and it'd be it's something simple that we can check against our own database. Hence efficiency, speeding up the process, moving on to the next step, and able to prioritize resources in other areas of that unit to better assist licensees.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Any discussion? All right, we'll move on to the next section and then we'll take public comment.
So in the materials were briefing papers proposing to withdraw recognition from 18 approval agencies. All of them are either we were unable to connect with them. And you can see all the different opportunities and times that we reached out to them that we were unable to do so, connect. And then some of them they've actually requested to be withdrawn. So those are the two reasons. These are before you. I'm not sure if you would like to go through each one and have a motion to withdraw, or if we can do them collectively.
We've been discussing this, and if the board would like to do one motion and handle this collectively, I think we can do so. But before we do that, I'd like to ask the board members some questions. The risk in doing that is that there may be a board member or board members who want to vote different ways for each item. But perhaps with this item, this is one we can handle that. So what I'll ask, are there any board members who feel the need to recuse themselves in terms of knowing any of these providers?
I do. I just have question. Oh. Would we be able to ask questions? It's not on?
Yeah, it took a little bit. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. If we vote for all of them at once, would the board be able to ask questions regarding a specific one?
We can certainly do that, but if there's going to be a difference in the voting, we should do each one by one, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay, and then I would not vote for one of them. I would take myself out of one of them. So,
As a recusal?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so is that the only one? Is there anyone else that might need to recuse themselves or would need to abstain or would feel the need to vote against? So then perhaps, can you identify which one that you're recusing yourself on?
Number 10?
Okay. Does that, but very basically, can you explain the reason for the?
Well, I would just want more detail as to why it would be taken off the list. It's a national organization that requires PTs that are certified within that organization to take continuing education within that organization, offered by the organization, in order to stay certified. So I would just want more detail as to why it's being taken off.
Okay, so you want to have discussion about that. I don't think you have grounds to recuse yourself based on that. Usually that is for a personal interest, financial interest in the item, or if you know the provider. However you'd like to vote. Because we've had this much discussion, I think we should do these one by one.
Okay.
So perhaps begin with, we can go through, discuss, and motion second, public comment. We'll have to go through that for each one.
List them one by one and then we have to make a motion for each one. Okay.
Okay, so the first approval agency that's being proposed to be withdrawn is ARC Seminars.
Is there any discussion?
And I can give the reason, just give me one moment. They failed to respond to requests when we reached out to them, so we were unable to connect with them.
I move to remove ARC seminars from the approval agencies list.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? No. Public comment in person? Public comment online?
We are open for public comment, and the motion for agenda item 20C as in Charlie 1, ARC seminars. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. Can we have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Yes.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Yes.
Paula Kaloff,
Yes.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Continue, sir.
All right, the next one is Back Project Corporation, and this agency requested that their recognition be withdrawn.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, anyone want to take a motion for this?
A motion to remove back Project Corporation from the continuing education, remove of continuing competency provider list.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Further public comment in person? And online, please?
We are taking public comment on 20C as in Charlie 2. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take about 8 more seconds to see if we have a request for public comment.
To our esteemed moderator, would you please refrain from describing the motion, just open for public comment?
Will do. No request for public comment.
Okay, thank you. Can we take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Paula Kaloff,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Just a point of order for the ease of use, and council can correct me, at the bottom of each of the briefing papers is a proposed motion recommendation from staff. Language is very consistent, very uniform. I would just suggest we use that part.
Where is that?
So on each individual briefing paper that kind of describes why we're actually asking for recognition, at the very bottom, you'll see action requested, and it'll say staff recommends, and you can use that language as the actual motion itself. If you concur with the recommendation, obviously.
Are you talking about on page 74?
In the 80s.
Each one of them.
In the 80s and 90s.
Okay, sorry.
So the briefing papers themselves.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Sarah, can we move on to number 4?
I think we're on number 3.
Oh, sorry, number 3.
Okay.
Thank you.
So number 3 is Canyon Ridge Physical Therapy, and they failed to comply with any request for information.
Okay, is there any discussion? None? Any motions?
A motion to move to withdraw approval agency recognition from Canyon Ridge Physical Therapy as a reasonable opportunity was given for the agency to respond.
I'll second that motion. Is there any public comment? In person? No public comment? Online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Vote, please.
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kayla,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Okay,
Great.
next.
Number 4, contemporary forums. This agency failed to comply with requests for information.
All right, is there any discussion? Any motion?
I move to remove contemporary forums from the approval agency list.
And I second that.
Okay, is there any public comment? None in person, any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a moment now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. Please take a vote.
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kayla,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sarah.
Number 5, Intercollegiate Academic Clinical Coordinators Council, IACCC. This agency failed to comply with requests from the board for information.
I have a question on this one. When did we start their continuing competency coverage with us? Do you have a year?
It was in
Oh,
2010.
2010, it's on there. Thank you so much. All right, is there any discussion? Questions? Is there a motion?
A motion to move withdrawal approval agency recognition from IACCC as a reasonable opportunity was given for the agency to respond.
I'll second that. And is there any public comment? In person? None in person? Is there any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the new motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. Can I take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kayla,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
Number 6 is Innovative Healthcare Partners, LLC, and this agency failed to comply with the board's request for information.
Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to withdraw of Innovative Health Partners, LLC, approval agency recognition.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any public comment in person? Seeing none, moderator, can you find out online if there's any public comment?
WebEx is once again open for public comment on the new motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a moment to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Can we take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kayla,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
Next one.
Yes, please.
Number 7, it is Institute for Brain Potential, and this agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Is there any discussion? Motion,
I move to terminate recognition of Institute of Brain Potential from approval agency.
Second.
okay, is there any public comment in person? How about online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And we're going to ask that members of the public online raise your hand as soon as the number is called, just so we can deal with the time difference. At the moment, there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Can we take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kaloff,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you. Next.
Number 8, Meridian Regional Medical Center, and this agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Okay, is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to withdraw of Marion Regional Medical Center approval agency recognition.
I'll second that. Is there any public comment in person? How about online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the new motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. Can we take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kaloff,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
Number 9 is Memorial Medical Center, and this agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Is there any questions or discussion? Okay, is there a motion?
I move to terminate recognition for Memorial Medical Center as a recognized approval agency.
I'll second that. Is there any public comment? In person? None. How about online?
WebEx is open for the next motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no requests, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please vote.
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kaloff,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. And number 10?
Number 10 is Neurodevelopmental Treatment Association, NDTA, and this agency has requested to withdraw recognition.
Okay, is there any discussion on this one?
Just some additional information to be considered. While some of these organizations may have asked to have their recognition removed, there is this potential that they could be approved by another recognized approval agency. So that's something to consider. While they might be asking to remove recognition for themselves, they may be covered under one of the other 120 some odd recognized approval agencies. With this one in particular, I know that their national accreditation is really done through AOTA more than anything else, but there may be one there that is a bridge for PT that I'm not aware of. We might have to look into it a little bit more. But what they're asking is just to have themselves removed as a recognized approval agency, not as a provider per se. They still might be a provider under a different recognized approval agency, but I don't have the information as to which one. But it's just, and it's a potential. I can't even confirm that that's the case, but it's something to keep in mind.
Okay, is there any other questions or discussions on the board?
Just have a quick question. Hopefully it's quick. I'm assuming that because I noticed a lot of the comments in terms of the, as far as the results when the attempts have been made to make a contact. I've noticed that a lot of it has been no response or no return call. So do we have an updated information of the people we need to be in touch with who are responsible to give us these decisions?
That's what we've been trying to do. So that's what this effort has been for the last few months is reaching out to all these agencies. And we have been collecting a lot of updated information. And so when we do, we contact the next person or use that new information. So sometimes it takes a while to get to the right person. We are attempting to do that. Sometimes we've been successful, and sometimes we haven't. But like I said, if we do withdraw the recognition and they come back and say, no, it does finally get to the right person and they want to be recognized again, they can resubmit an application and they can get back on the recognition list.
How long is the coverage for what they pay for being on the list?
That is one of the issues is there is no fee
Oh,
to be a
yeah.
recognized approval agency. Currently, it's
Yeah.
part of that continuing competency regulatory package for consideration in the future. We
Okay.
have the legislative authority to charge a fee. We just
Haven't
we
been
have
doing it.
not promulgated regs for that fee schedule as of yet.
There's
So
very,
this kind of,
very little excuse for
this
not
kind of update of the list,
responding.
right, and that might be the case. A number of these that have asked to remove that recognition of themselves, some of them might have been doing it solely for content that they provide. Some of them might have been doing it with the idea to provide retroactive approval for others or approving other recognized providers. We anticipated in the cleanup of this list that this list would get smaller as we went through it. Some people filed applications and we never heard from them again.
Okay.
Right. And so to Sarah's point, that's what's bearing out here. As an effort of this, where you're seeing either the failure to contact resulting in removal of recognition or their requests to remove their recognition, there's a whole nother list where we've updated the points of contact and we're kind of buttoning up that and cleaning that up. The next portion of that will then be to collect what content do you provide? What is your course catalog? And then collect that course catalog within the board's website.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from the board on this item? Number 10, 20, 10? C10, I guess. Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to withdraw approval agency recognition from NDTA.
I second.
Okay. Is there any public comment in person? Okay. Any public comment online?
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can I have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kaloff,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Okay. Continue, please.
Number 11, ProMedica. And this agency has requested to withdraw recognition.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to withdraw or terminate recognition of ProMedica from recognized approval agency.
Second.
Okay. Is there any public comment? In person? Not seeing any online?
WebEx is once again open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kaloff,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillian is absent. 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
Number 12, Providence Home Health, Orange County. And this agency has failed to comply with the board's request for information.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the withdrawal of Providence Home Health Orange County as an approval agency.
I will second.
Okay, is there any public comment in person? Not seeing any. Is there any online?
WebEx is once again open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kela,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
Number 13, Rancho Physical Therapy, and this agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Okay, is there any discussion or questions from the board? No, is there a motion?
A motion withdrawal of Rancho Physical Therapy, Inc., approval agency recognition status.
I second.
Okay, is there any public comment in person? Not seeing any. Is there any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the new motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kela,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
Number 14, Sharp Home Health, and this agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Okay, is there any discussion or questions from the board? Is there a motion?
I move to terminate recognition of Sharp Home Health from the recognized approval agency.
I second.
Okay, is there any public comment in person? Not seeing any. Is there any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kela,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Okay, next.
Number 15, the Brain Cell, and this agency has failed to comply with the board's request for information.
Okay, is there any discussion or questions from the board? Is there a motion?
A motion withdrawal of the Brain Cell Approval Agency recognition.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any public comment in person? Not seeing any. Is there any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Vote.
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kela,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you. Next.
Number 16, Trebon Physical Therapy, and this agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Okay, is there any discussion? Motion?
I move to withdraw approval agency recognition from Trebon Physical Therapy.
I second. Is there any public comment? Not seeing any public comment in person. Is there any online?
WebEx is once again open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we have a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kela,
Aye.
Tanya McMillian. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you. Next.
Number 17, Urban Polling. This agency has requested to withdraw its recognition.
Okay, is there any discussion from the board? Is there a motion?
I move to terminate recognition of Urban Polling as a recognized approval agency.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? None in person. Is there any online?
WebEx is once again open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kayla,
Aye.
Tanya McMillion. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you.
The last one, number 18, Wound Care Gurus LLC, and this agency has failed to comply with the board's request for information.
Okay, is there any discussion from the board? Is there a motion?
A motion to move withdraw approval agency recognition from Wound Care Gurus LLC as a reason, as a recognition approval agency.
I second.
Okay, is there any public comment in person? Not seeing any. Is there any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Can we take a vote?
Karen Brandon,
Aye.
Sam Q,
Aye.
Dale Armstrong,
Aye.
Tala Kayla,
Aye.
Tanya McMillion. Tanya McMillion's absent, 4-0, motion carried.
Thank you. All right. And thank you to Valerie and her unit for the hard work in tracking these down and cleaning up the list and giving people an opportunity to respond. And thank you, Sarah, for presenting. Can I take any public comment on the totality of 20 licensing services update in person? Any public comment in person for 20 A through C? Not seeing any in person. Can I take any public comment online?
WebEx is open for public comment on all of agenda item 20. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. Seeing no request, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, actually, it's time for a recess. We're going to take a 10-minute recess. We'll be back at 10:45 a.m. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. This is a continuance of the second day of the PT Board of California board meeting at Loma Linda University, September 25. We are continuing on our agenda item number 21, which is Consumer Protection Services Update. Thank you, Carol, for joining us.
Good morning, board members. Today I'm here to report to you on the update of the Consumer Protection Services Program of the board for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 24-25. There's attachment A is our statistics report for the fiscal year. Attachment B to our report is a 3-year statistical report comparison. And attachment C is the disciplinary summary for the fourth quarter of last fiscal year. In the fourth quarter, CPS unit continued to take advantage of the SharePoint platform. SharePoint is a single destination for staff to receive relevant information and to submit and track requests. The CPS SharePoint page now has a list that is updated daily of all disciplinary actions taken. This daily list replaces an email that staff received in the past. That emails, if we can reduce the number of emails coming into the analyst email inbox, cluttering that, and reduce it to a list that they can view as needed, that definitely helps out with workflow. So we've done that with the disciplinary actions. And that list assists the staff with timely reporting of disciplinary actions to the National Practitioner Data Bank as required. CPS staff also began using a few new forms on the SharePoint page this quarter, including forms that allow staff to submit requests for case initiation, to open new complaint cases, and expert consultant task orders to move that process along. We also use it to submit documents to the executive officer for review and approval. Previously, CPS staff would submit these requests by email or in writing, and the approver would sometimes have a difficult time keeping track of the various requests and modes of submittal via paper, email, Teams message, etc. Now these requests are all centralized in SharePoint, making it easier for the approval to see and complete all outstanding requests or send feedback to the analysts for changes or further review. Of course.
Can't hear you. Okay, microphone.
As the approver who sometimes has a hard time keeping track of those requests, I very much also appreciate the SharePoint site, and it acts like a dashboard of things that I need to do to not slow down the Consumer Protection Services unit.
It keeps everything in a concise single spot. He can approve it electronically. I can see that approval. We can affix his electronic signature. Staff can receive the signed document. It's all kind of automated through that SharePoint process in one place for each of us to look. So it's a much smoother process for sure. The CPS manager and staff has spent a great deal of time in that last quarter in reviewing annual statistics, both for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25. We updated the BREEZE database and our written enforcement procedures to assist the Department of Consumer Affairs, the DCA, in its effort to create streamlined department-wide statistic reports. In some cases, the board procedures were updated to more easily match the DCA report parameters to accurately capture data. And in other cases, DCA tailored its report parameters to account for PTBC's unique circumstances. So we did that with the 23-24 fiscal year as kind of a dry run. And then at the end of, as soon as July hit, we ran the 24-25 fiscal year report and were able to submit that data to DCA in this current fiscal quarter for the 24-25 annual report. The CPS unit and the board management continue to hold quarterly meetings with our contacts at the Division of Investigation, DFI, and the Attorney General's Office, the AG, to discuss outstanding issues and collaborate to ensure effective case and program management. The board management, in collaboration with the Attorney General's Office and our DAG liaison, John Gatchett, finalized and conducted an in-person expert consultant training this past Monday, September 22nd. We had 8 new experts in attendance at the training, in addition to 14 current experts, as well as a few board members. The board's goal is to expand its pool of expert consultants by recruiting and training new experts, as well as by providing continuing training to our current expert consultants working with the board throughout the state. I'm going to move to attachment A, the statistics report for quarter 4 of fiscal year 24-25. Performance measure 1 shows that the board received and opened a total of 159 cases this quarter, including 110 consumer complaints and 49 reports of arrest or conviction. The board received a total of 576 complaints this fiscal year, which is 13% more than last fiscal year. And the increase in complaints received has been steady since the pandemic low of just over 400 complaints and arrest reports received in fiscal year 2020-2021. That number is not on your 3-year report, but we accessed it from a prior report. Performance measure 2, complaint intake, measures the average number of days after receipt until the board initiates a case and sends an acknowledgement letter to the complainant. This quarter's average is 2 days, which is well under the target of 9 days. While the CPS unit has consistently met this target in the past, the new processes within SharePoint have made it easier for staff to forward complaints to the CPS unit to be initiated, while ensuring that the intake analyst has all the information necessary to initiate a case. Performance measure 3, which measures investigation timelines, shows the average case agent days for all cases that do not result in referral to the Attorney General's Office for formal discipline. This includes cases that were closed with no administrative action, as well as cases in which citations or in-house public letters of reprimand were issued. The average case age was 154 days for this quarter, and 175 days over the year, which is 5% higher compared to last fiscal year, but our target is 180 days, so this target was still met. These numbers are known to fluctuate greatly as they reflect the average of all cases and encompass the entire investigative process that involves the timelines and workloads of the board and all involved agencies. Performance measure 4 captures the average case age in days for cases that were referred to the Attorney General's office for formal discipline. 11 cases were finalized at the AG's office this quarter, taking an average of 676 days from receipt of complaint to case closure. This is 14% shorter than last fiscal year's average, but is still outside of the target for this performance measure of 540 days. However, like performance measure 3, this is the average case age and reflects the involvement of not only enforcement staff, but other involved parties such as the complainant, the reporting party, the licensee and their attorney, any involved healthcare facilities, the Division of Investigation, the Attorney General's Office, and the Office of Administrative Hearing. In summary, for fiscal year 24-25, staff initiated, like I said, 576 new cases. 38 citations were issued. We completed 501 desk investigations, referred 64 cases to the Attorney General's office, were granted 1 interim suspension order and 2 PC-23 orders, and we closed 39 cases after referral to the AG's office. Just quickly on the 3-year statistics report, the complaint volume has slowly increased from year to year for a total of 75 more complaints received last fiscal year compared to the first year in that report. Performance measure 4, the overall discipline cycle time, and measure 4B, the investigation only portion of that, have gone down dramatically. This could be in part due to being able to complete fiscal year 22-23 and 23-24, those discipline cases that were postponed in 2020 and 2021. So you'll see the higher case aging in those years for cases that were postponed in the early pandemic days. And then by now we're a little bit more dealing with just 2- and 3-year-old cases, not as much more current cases. Attachment C, the disciplinary summary, lists all formal discipline issued in quarter 4. In this quarter, 1 licensee was issued a public letter of reprimand. 2 licensees were placed on probation. 1 licensee surrendered their license through a disciplinary order, and 2 licensees lost their privilege to practice PT by revocation order. All of our disciplinary actions are available on the board's website or through the DCA license search. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from the board? I had a question about our total pool of experts. What number are we at now of active utilized experts?
With the 8 new experts, I think we're hovering around 50 total current active experts.
Okay. What is our need?
It varies by location. So right now we have plenty in some geographical areas. We did, I'd have to look at who exactly attended versus who was invited, but I believe we added a few that were needed in like the San Diego area. And also in the Sacramento and Northern California area, we added a few to that list for there.
What is our subspecialty coverage for the specialty areas of pediatrics, pelvic health, neuro?
Yeah, we're collecting that information right now from experts and updating that. We have had that information, but we have experts with pelvic health. I'm not sure like if there's an exhaustive list of specialties to make sure we have them all, but we have a very good range of experts with various specialties. And we do collect that information so that when we get a case that requires a specialty, we can match it to an appropriate expert.
Mm-hmm. On average, these experts are utilized how many times in a year? Average. I mean, is there one that's just getting getting really busy because either they're a subspecialist or their location has a lot more?
There are experts that get more work than others due to either their subspecialty or their location. I would say on average, over the 50 experts that we have, really just off the top of my head, I would say each expert probably gets between 2 and 5 cases a year.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would really like to see when we do advertise if there's specific locations. Maybe you already did it, but
It's in the thought process, especially for this training. I did make sure that we reached out to the experts. We needed experts in San Diego and we needed additional experts in Northern California. We will be working with the outreach team to specifically, if we can figure out how to specifically target geographic areas to request, to get people to apply.
apply. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone listening online, this is your opportunity to interface in a very positive way with the board, utilize your skills and be of service and learn a lot. Is there any other discussion? Questions for?
I have a question. So how are these experts compensated, or is this purely voluntary?
So experts are compensated on an hourly rate. Each case is assigned an estimated number of hours for the expert. Experts currently receive $100 an hour compensation for their time. And each case generally ranges between 6 to 15 hours, I would say, of required time.
Carol, is there any escalation in the reimbursement rate if they're called to testify at hearing?
Yes, so if they are required to testify at hearing, they get $150 an hour for time spent either in conference with the Deputy Attorney General in preparation for hearing and for attending the hearing itself. They also get compensated for travel time and mileage expenses.
Just briefly, we had some board members attend the training on Monday, and we had 3 board members, which means that we have to be careful to follow open meeting requirements. However, we are now at your board meeting, so if there's anything that was contained in that training that you'd like to discuss or bring up, this would be a very appropriate time to do that. You've already been doing that, but I just wanted to add that 2 cents.
Well, I just thought it was extremely valuable to attend the training, being on the other end and getting cases and seeing expert testimony. So it was really great to learn what the training entailed, and I thought it was very informational.
Yeah, I thought that our DAG did a wonderful job of explaining kind of where the expert sits in the entire process of the investigation and what is really critical for them to, the piece that they play, the role that they play, incredibly important in determining and defining the standard of practice and how it's unique to physical therapy regulation in California as opposed to other regulations in California, that the expert is really the key to tying in the practice from the perspective of implementation, not just the references from literature or from education or from the association. So that was really important for us to, I hope everyone got that from that training as well.
The only thing I'd add to it is, it's our intent as resources allow to do that training annually. And the idea is, coming out of the pandemic, this is the first in-person training that we've done, and we're doing it here in Southern California. We want to rotate it, every other year. So you can anticipate this training being provided in SoCal every other year and NorCal every other year. So next year in 2026, we will do an in-person training again, as long as resources allow. And the intent there is also to add a few components. In the past, what we've also done is mock trials, right? So that experts can see and experience what it's like to testify, before a court, and then best practices and guidance on how to go about doing that. John touched on it a little bit in his training yesterday, but there is no better training than, simulation or on the job real experience.
Mm-hmm. I had a question. Is this the only orientation that they get, this program? Yeah.
Yes, this is the only formal orientation. I myself speak with each expert, especially when they're handed their first case, and in fact, in this instance, we had a mock case that we gave each expert at the end of the training to take home with them and provide a report. So we will provide feedback to those experts on their report to make sure they hit all the criteria that we need an expert to provide in their report. So they will have that before they have their first case.
Mhm.
And then when they are given their first case as an expert and even ongoing as needed, we do feedback and reach out to them with any issues that come up or anything we need.
So,
We'll also provide them an expert consultant training guide.
Right.
Yeah.
Upon acceptance, and we try to pair them up and buddy them up. So a new expert will be
Right.
paired with a veteran expert, again, as geography, as demographic, as those kind of resources allow.
that's excellent. I think just one maybe suggestion that I have is that for someone who's entering this space, it can be very overwhelming, the definitions and kind of understanding the process, and if it's at all possible, because I am a like visual learner and many people are, if there could be like a small video prepping them for like the orientation, it's an opportunity. They can watch it or not watch it, but there was so much information for having one 3-hour, you know what I mean, lecture. It would have been nice to have some of that information given ahead so that I had like a framework, a reference, then I could add on to like my tree of knowledge, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, we have an expert reviewer guidelines, and that's something that we can provide to experts in advance of the training
Mhm.
that they can choose to review
Mhm.
to get kind of a baseline information on what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's any chance that we can make that a short video, I mean, just not the entire guide, just pieces that are pertinent to be able to understand what John's saying when he does the training.
We are having ongoing discussions with the Department of Consumer Affairs, Public Affairs Office. We have I would say, a very long list of video tutorial ideas that we want to present to them. That is on that list. So, and we took a lot of valuable footage yesterday that, and during the AG proposal anyway, that we might use as part of that.
Mhm. And I think just one more thing, we mentioned it yesterday during the DAG presentation, but the uniqueness of the physical therapy board opportunity to go with the investigator and how valuable that is in actually giving the licensee the best case outcome and opportunity for that information to be reviewed on site in real time versus having it come later and from an investigator who is not a therapist and having to have someone at some point interpret the information from the investigator. So I think the more people understand all of these checks and balances are put in to do both, protect the consumer and also give the best opportunity for the licensee to prove what they did or didn't do would be really important to mention.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion from the board for the item? Am I on? Whoops. 21. Wow. 21 A, B, or nope, A or B. Is there any public comment in person? All right. Any public comment online?
WebEx is open for public comment on the consumer protection update. If you'd like to make a comment, please tap that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. We're going to go on to item 22, also under enforcement probation monitoring services update.
Thank you. I'll also be providing that update. This is a report of the board's probation monitoring program for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 24-25. Attachment A contains the probation statistics for the full fiscal year, and attachment B contains the probation statistics for the last 3 fiscal years. During the fourth quarter of fiscal year 24-25, the total number of licensees on probation went down from 66 to 61. This includes probationers actively serving their probation term and those tolling for various reasons. As of June 30th, there were 44 probationers actively working in the state of California, 6 probationers tolling, meaning not receiving credit toward completion of probation and located out of state, and 11 probationers tolling located in state. They were tolling, the in-state tollers were tolling due to unemployment or underemployment in physical therapy. 2 licensees were placed on probation in the quarter and 1 initial probationary license was issued. 3 probationers completed probation. No probationers had their probation revoked or exercised their option to voluntarily surrender their license to the board. Of the 44 licensees actively serving their probation term as of June 30th, 10 were enrolled and participating in the board's substance abuse rehabilitation program called Premier. This represents about 23% of all active non-tolling probationers. 1 probationer enrolled in the Premier program in the quarter and 1 completed the program. There were 3 instances of non-compliance with probation in the quarter. All were minor violations for not being available for quarterly interviews with the probation monitor. Looking at the 3-year statistics report, the number of licensees on probation has steadily decreased from 80 to 61. Much of this decrease can be attributed to the decrease of tolling probationers whose license is canceled due to non-renewal and a concerted effort by the board to identify, contact, and offer voluntary surrender of license to probationers who did not have any plan or desire to return to California. Our disciplinary guidelines were updated in 2022, and prior to that, we did not have the term that required that they maintain a valid license. So many of our probationers that went on probation prior to that would toll and have a delinquent license, and it would not be considered a violation of probation. They just would kind of maintain out there. Either their license would cancel or they would continue to renew, but just continue to toll on like an ongoing basis. So we would reach out to those people, offer that voluntary surrender if they were interested. Some of them accepted that. Some of them had licenses cancel. And so that's kind of an attribution of that drop in number of probationers. There was also a sharp increase in the number of probationers that successfully completed probation over the last fiscal year, going from 17 total in the previous 2 fiscal years to 15 in just the last 1 fiscal year. In fiscal year 24-25, as well as in 23-24, the number of instances of noncompliance with probation increased significantly from previous years. This was due to the board's concentrated effort to obtain compliance with the quarterly reporting requirements from probationers who had been tolling long-term. Like I said before, these licensees had delinquent licenses or were just tolling perpetually. And we began requiring probationers to submit quarterly reports even when tolling. That was a new requirement starting in about 2023. As a result, most instances of noncompliance since that time have been of the probationer not responding or being available for those quarterly interviews and or not submitting their quarterly paperwork as required. And like I said, that was a new requirement starting in 2023 that we were just kind of fleshing out those long-term tollers to see what their plans were. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or discussion on the board about the probation monitoring services? I had a question. You said that we had 1 complete in this quarter. Was that the first one that we've had complete with the Premier?
Yes.
Oh,
I'd have to look back and see if there were, because we've been with Premier since January.
so they've had a previous,
So there may have been one in the quarter 3.
and their entire probation would not have been under Premier. It would have been under,
They would have just
Our-
completed under Premier. Premier didn't begin until January. So prior to that, they were with the Maximus program.
okay.
But it was a pretty smooth transition, even for those that were in that transition period or coming to an end. The transition for those participants was very smooth.
Good. And then is their closeout process about the same as we had previously with the other agency?
Yeah, it's basically the same kind of transition program, the timeline that they follow, the requirements that they have to meet,
Okay.
testing and all of those things to confirm that they are ready to do so.
Okay.
I'm just curious about the jump with non-compliance with probation from fiscal year 2022-23 to 2023-24 from 2 to 22. Is there a
So
reason?
in fiscal year 23, 24 is when we began kind of the push to contact all of our tolling and delinquent probationers. Prior to that, we weren't, if they were tolling, they were not required to submit quarterly reports or attend the quarterly interviews with the probation monitor. But beginning in 2023, we were trying to clean those up and see what was going on with those probationers, what their plans and intentions were. And so a lot of that was their failure to respond to our requests for meetings and failure to provide those quarterly reports as we were kind of making them aware of that requirement to do so.
Are there any more questions from the board, comments? Okay. I want to open it for public comment in person. Not seeing any public comment in person, any online?
WebEx is open for public comment on agenda item 22. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a moment now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request online, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Carol. And thank you to your entire unit for their hard work. We are now on item agenda 23, public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there any public comment? Not seeing any in person. How about online?
WebEx is open for public comment for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request is coming from area code 949. Hold on just a moment, please. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. Hello, my name is Ryan McCarthy, and I'm here today on behalf of the California Acupuncture Coalition. We have some concerns about the potential addition of dry needling to the scope of physical therapy work in the state through the upcoming sunset review process. We worry that patient care could be compromised by allowing other professions to practice acupuncture treatment without the same level of education that is required to become a licensed acupuncturist in the state. To add some context, to become a licensed acupuncturist in the state of California, you're required to complete a minimum 3-year master's degree program, which includes 3,000 hours of acupuncture-specific training for entry-level competency, along with 950 hours of clinical hands-on training. We agree that public protection is paramount in our practices and believe that allowing other professions to practice an invasive medical procedure without this same level of education would put patients at risk. As you know, dry needling is not a new innovation. It uses the same stimulation points as acupuncture, with studies estimating 95% of points used by dry needlers are the same as acupuncture points. Some other professions have sought to discredit these academic studies by stating acupuncture is based on energy while dry needling. Again, this is not true. Chinese medical texts dating back to 200 BC have identified these trigger points. These Chinese medical texts have been repeatedly studied by academics who overwhelmingly agree that these points remain medically accurate 2,000 years later. Additionally, most of the literature used to justify the clinical legitimacy of dry needling is drawn from these same acupuncture research studies. Using dry needling points is a roundabout way of eliciting the same neurological and hormonal responses as acupuncture treatment. As fellow healthcare professionals, we would be happy to collaborate on care methods for chronically injured patients, but allowing people to practice needle medicine without proper training is dangerous for all involved. Thanks for your time, and please do not hesitate to reach out to me or the CAC with any questions you have about this topic.
Thank
for your
you.
comment.
My apologies, Madam President. That was our only request for public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are going to move on to item agenda number 24. Agenda items for future meetings. Any comments from the board? I think Mr. Kaiser discussed the concept that we were going to include a discussion on animal rehabilitation in our upcoming meeting. You want to share a little bit about the people that have reached out and what our intent is around that?
In December in Sacramento, we intend to have that as an agenda item. We do have some confirmed guests and participants, and that list might grow over time. So we will keep the board abreast of that, and you will find that posted on the agenda fairly soon. And stakeholder invitation and contacts will be initiated and sent out as well.
Just wanted to make a brief record. There was discussion earlier about the scheduling of a meeting in October and a meeting in November. Just want to make a public record, a public statement that those meetings are not currently set and noticed. Those meetings will be noticed in accordance with the Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Act at least 10 days before. The board is usually pretty good about doing it before that, but I don't want the public to be under the presumption that we have a meeting officially scheduled for those times, because we do not.
Okay. Is there any other comment from the board? Questions? Additions? All right. Any public comment at this time? Or agenda items for future meetings? None in person? How about online?
WebEx is open for public comment on future meetings. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. So this is going to adjourn our meeting today as of the PT Board of California. I want to say a very special thank you to Loma Linda University and our hosts who have been great with our tech and our ability to get our expert consultants trained and given us a lot of support for what we do. So we will see you all in December 11 and 12, if not before that, for our sunset report review meetings. Thank you.
And very briefly, we will not be taking up item 25. Thank you.